learning a block tomorrow. Today's daf is daf lamed zayin amar aleph, and we are learning. We had a machlekes Rabbi Yechanan and Zeiri. Rabbi Yechanan said that we learn out from Mishnah. So if you dip your bread into wine, it is asur als heter mitzaref le'iser, which means if you don't the full kazayis of the wine, but if you have the wine and the bread together, aggregate is the full share, then you are liable. And Zeiri said that this is not only limited to Nazir, it also applies to Sa'ir and Chametz, because from the word kol, kol Sa'ir, kol means anything that he eats if an aggregate. Abaye challenged him, and Abaye was asking that why is a heter mitzaref le'iser only limited to Nazir when l'chayda tzadin kol ha'tayda kula? And he brought a few brises where he thought the only possible explanation is because the heter mitzaref le'iser, and we explain now. There is because of truma and the rabbanon, either because of the spices of the rabbanon, or because truma itself is manas as the rabbanon, and therefore we are makel in those cases. Nothing to do with us. Okay, but we did introduce another idea, and that is that kazai is pras. From one of the questions that he brought up, we said that no, you have to eat a full kazai, the full share to be liable, but you don't have to eat it all in one go. You have a certain span of time called achilas pras that you could eat it in. So now we continue with Lamed Zayin Amar Aleph. In the Gemara, we're up to Amalei Abaye, about 5 lines on the top of the page. Now Abaye continues pursuing them, but instead of asking, how do you know that initially Abaye thought kol ha'tayda kula, we should say heter mitzaref le'iser. Now he's going to say, how do you know such a principle called heter mitzaref le'iser? Amalei Abaye said to them, Memai, how do you know that this pasuk over here where it says mishras hanovim, soaking the grapes, is leheter mitzaref le'iser? It's coming to teach you that even though you don't have the full amount of the isa, but they combine, maybe he's talking about you definitely have the full amount, but let's say you put grapes into the water, a full amount of grapes into the water, and now the water has a taste of those grapes. And even though that it's only taste, that's what it's coming to teach you. The tam is kikir. So that's what he asked. Which interesting how the Gemara challenges the Baina, because we had it sometimes in Gemara as well. The Gemara first would say, my timer, what's the reason? And then after the Gemara finds the reason, it says, oh, pshita, that's obvious. The Gemara is going to answer here, the Gemara is going to spell out that question on Abaye. Abaye, we are confused. Mikara kakashle, might come of Dimi. First, you ask the question of Dimi, why are you limiting on to Nazir? It should be din kol kula. You've done you brought a number of questions, 3 questions to prove that it's a din kol kula. And now you're saying, and now you're saying, how do you know that such a principle called heter mitzaref le'iser? Maybe the shot in the pasuk is because of tam ki'ika. Does this make sense? Amalei, so Abaye, sorry. Hold on, ladies. Now we could. One answer is very simple. Bossa the Shonler of Dimi's answers were so good and so convincing. Amalei Dimi Litinamika. Now that you could convince me, it's definitely not a dinner called Kula. I have no basis for it. So I'm asking you, maybe it's Tam Kikir. Why am I asking is Tam Kikir? Because if you have a choice to use this pasuk to teach you either the principle of Tam Kikir or the principle of heter mitzaref le'iser, which would be a greater chiddush and which is a lesser chiddush? Heter mitzaref le'iser is a greater chiddush. The fact is, you don't have the full amount of isa there. You only have a half a kazai, a little bit more than half a kazai of the treif, let's say, and less than half a kazai of the kasha. And to two combined together, you ate it together, you make it a kazai. That's a very big chiddush. At least in Tam Gika, you had a full share there that gave the flavor into the isa. And the chiddush is that the tam is just as asa as the ikr, but at least in a full share. Tam. That's the point. The point is, so that's a chiddush. But there, to tell you, we have clearly how much it'll be, and here you have less than that. On what basis they have? Because you had to with it. Please, here you can. They're both a chiddush, but which is a greater chiddush? So Abaye is asking, how do you know which one to learn? Let's learn Tam Kikir. Look at the Tanya. In fact, I have a brayse that says it. It says in the brayse, it doesn't pause in Mishnah. It's Tam Kikir. Teach you the din of Tam Kikir. Shim showed another. If you soak grapes in water, of a yeshben Tam yayin, and the water now tastes like wine. Chayiv, you are chayiv. From here, you learn out this concept of Tam Kikir, which we learn in Shulchan Aruch. And this is how we learn. We're going to equate the entire Torah to, not only we're going to equate, we can actually make a kavachayim to many other terms. For example, Uman Nazir she'ein isur isur olam. A Nazir is not also forever, because after 30 days he's permitted. The ain isur isur a Nazir is allowed to have a from wine. You can use it as for Eid Tchumen, for example, or Eid Chatzedis. But yesh heter li isurai, and there's a heter to its isur. What means a heter to its isur? So Rashi wants to learn that after 30 days, the wine becomes mutter. Tracy learns that he can always, in the middle of the 30 days, go to a Rav and be matter neder. Rashi then, the way he understands heter, so he tries to understand the difference between isura and isuroilim. The Isur of wine is not also forever. So after 30 days of wine becomes mutter, and yesh heter l'isure. So Rashi says one is talking about the person becomes mutter, and one is talking about the grapes become mutter. And yet the din is also about tamkika by another, which is so lenient yet to say tamkika. Kalaya kenan, for example, kalaya kenan, where you grow together vines with barley. She sudan wheat. She sudan isur oila, where the isur there is forever. Whatever grew is also forever. The isudan isur, no, you can't have any benefit from it. And the ain heter isudan, whatever grew, you can't. There's no heter for it, and there's no heter for that growth. So it's three chumras. Ain adin she asked about tamkika, so surely the law should be tamkika. So that's what we learn from Nazir. So Rabbi is asking to see clearly that Nazir we can learn tamkika. How do you know to learn from there? And Allah has only two luchumras, but still two luchumras Allah has. That because it's also bahana, and there's no heter to the Yisur ever grew, but it's not Yisur Olam, because after 3 years the tree becomes mutter. Other Hashem have a problem with that because the tree was never us. It's only the fruits that are us. Anyway, but the fruits that grow to the 4th year, you can redeem them. That's right, or whatever it is, you can redeem. So one of the students answered Abaya. Interesting, we don't even give the name of the student. That what? The Brisa here that learns Tamki Ikke from Nazir is arguing with what we said before about Hetzavli. So Rabbi Yechon was explaining Rabbi Akiva. What do you mean? Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yechon said we learned from their Het Mistalef Isa from Nazir. He was referring to Rabbi Akiva. But the Chachamim, the author of this Brisa, they hold you learn Tamki Ikke. Now, what Rabbi Akiva are we talking about here? Says the Gemara. The Gemara is like this. Hi, Rabbi Akiva. Which Rabbi Akiva are you talking about? Elaim, but Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Akiva, our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva clearly says, that now Rabbi Akiva says, you soak your bread and wine, and you can combine a kazayis. What do we combine? The bread, combine. You think we're talking about the bread and the wine. Actually, you combine it. So it's het misalisa, chayiv, right? So you learn Rabbi Akiva holds chayiv. How do you know that the combining here he means hetem salisa dilma hudika kazayis being? Maybe he's talking about tamki. Maybe he's talking about that you need maybe he's talking about you need wine in the bread, and he's saying Litzadav means if you can combine all the wine that's soaked into the bread, because the wine is spread all over the bread, you can combine it to a kazayis, not like you hold a revius, but I hold it the wine is a kazayis, then you are chayiv. So nothing to do with tam, nothing to do with hetem salisa. How do you know Rabbi Akiva holds hetem salisa? I use the word combine. Combine is to have the aggregate of the full shir. What's his chiddush then? You tell me, my member, you can tell me what's the chiddush. La fuka Tanakama. Tanakama says, actually, you should have vias yet. Tanakama says, you need to drink how much? Or the vias wine. So Rabbi Akiva kazayis. There is a Rabbi Akiva in the Brisa, and this Brisa Rabbi Akiva holds that by Nazir is hetem established. Tanya Rabbi Akiva says Nazir should shred a piece of yain. If a Nazir soaked his bread and wine, but ochel kazais, he ate a kazais. Mipas umeyain. Clearly, he spells out here the aggregate is the bread together with you combine the bread together with the wine. Then chayiv. So we see clearly that Rabbi Akiva holds that you combine the bread with the wine to make a full share. Rabbi Akiva, who says that this so we're asking a question according to Rabbi Akiva that says that Nazir is talking about hetem salisa. Where does he know the principle of tam kika? Now, who says he holds it? Maybe Taki doesn't hold of it, because I just told you before that tam kika is less of a chiddush than hetem salisa, because the fact is you have the full amount. In hetem salisa, you definitely don't have the full amount. So Rabbi Akiva, therefore, if he holds that using Nazir for the bigger chiddush of hetem salisa, must be that the lesser chiddush of tam kika he learns it elsewhere. So where's he learning it from? Minolan, how do you know this? We have a simple Gemara in Pesach in a Levi. Ya'aliv basar b'chalav. He learns this. He learns the idea of tam ki'ikir from meat and milk. When you have meat and milk, the milk gets absorbed in the meat. There's no milk sitting separately. It gets totally absorbed in the meat. So it's what do you have? It's a hakal, only the taste of the milk. There's no real milk. There's just a taste. And yet you're chayiv. So we see from here tam ki'ikir. Lav tam ba'almahu. All you have really there is a taste of the milk, and yet also it's forbidden. Is halchanam here too? Lo yishna. So that's how we know that tam ki'ikir word called terikula. Says the Gemara, Rabbanon. So the Rabbanon who learned tam ki'ikir from Nazir, what do they do with basar b'chalav? So they say no. They're going to say basar b'chalav. You're right, it's tam ki'ikir, but that's unique. And because the whole concept of basar b'chalav is such a unique iser, we cannot compare anything else to it. So we need another place, and that's Nazir. Why? What makes basar b'chalav such a big chiddush? Rabbanon, the basar b'chalav, you cannot compare anything to meat and milk. The chiddushu, meat and milk is a chiddush, is novel. My chiddush. Gemara says, yeah, what's so novel about basar b'chalav? If you can tell me what, meat on its own permitted, milk on its own permitted, yet Bahadi Hadadi also you combine the two, it's also, and that's a very big chiddush. Two zeros should make zero, not one. Is that the chiddush? He says here, what about Isa climb? Climb nami, climb. You take let's say two things, grapes and wheat, or clothing, wool and linen, each one permitted on their own. Each one permitted, and yet Bahadi Hadadi also you put them together, it's forbidden. So we see two zeros, don't make a one. Do make a one. Interesting, the Gemara says over here that the chiddush of basar b'chalav is that each on their own is permitted, and that's like a chiddush. Yeah, so therefore there's a whole discussion by chatzi shir. We hold Rabbi Yochanan says we have yuma that a chatzi shir, if you eat less than the full amount, is also from the Torah, and there's two ways of learning. Is the pshat that it's also because you might come to eat the full amount, or the pshat is that you can't get a bunch of zeros to one. And therefore, it must be that every gram of what you're eating has in it iser. Just you're not liable to eat a full amount, but every gram of it has in it iser. For haraya, when you eat the full share, had become also must be. And here you see right here, the Gemara considers first the Gemara thought that is a chiddush that zero should become one, and the Gemara says, "What are you talking about? Climb. No, there's no chiddush in a bunch of zero becoming one." So therefore, those who want to bring a proof from here that a chatish share be'etzim is already asur. The other ones is probably from the Gemara's answer. There's no big. That's not necessarily so. Anyway, go back to that question. So, what's so novel about basar b'chalav? Why can't you learn from their tam ki'ikir? It says very simply, the total kula yom of b'chalav, if it soaks all day, the meat in the milk shari. Yet the mavashli b'shul, you cook it for 2 minutes, also it's forbidden. The fact that the iser is only if you cook it, and so on, proves that it's a chiddush. You can't compare anything to basar b'chalav. No, so how can Rabbi Kiva Nami? So you're telling me Rabbi Kiva learns tam ki'ikir and basar b'chalav, but how? It's a chiddush. Nami basar b'chalav. He also agrees it's a chiddush. Ella, where did he learn it from? When he went to war in Midian, they were told that any non-kosher kalim utensils need to be kashed. Now, why did they kashed? There's no food inside it. It's because the taste, the flavor that got absorbed in the walls. So you see from here, tam ki'ikir. That's where you learn it from. Ya'alev migu'ulev g'chavim, kashing non-kosher kalim. The Omar HaMotera says, "Kol davar she'yev be'esh." Anything that comes to the fire, you have to what do you call? You have to kash. The members to teach us that if you would use the keli, it would be asur without kashing it. Lav time and ba'almahu. What do you have there? All you have there is taste, and yet for us, every time we kasher kelim because there's flavor there and taste. So we see tam ki'ikir. That's we learn out the principle of the tam ki'ikir. Says the Gemara. Nami. Tracy asked an interesting question. Why don't we say then that over there tam ki'ikir is because by what do you call it? By Giuli Akum tam ki'ikir, but there's no heter to that ain heter li'surei. So therefore, all those are isurim that once it becomes us, it never becomes mutter. Okay, the taste is equal. But by Nazir, after 30 days, where the isur becomes mutter, or some people argue by Chametz and Pesach, after Pesach it's mutter, maybe over there is no tam ki'ikir. And that's where Rabbi Kiva, the question goes back to Rabbi Kiva. What are you learning heter mistav isur from Nazir? Maybe you need for tam ki'ikir by Nazir. You're going to tell me you learned tam ki'ikir from Gula Abu Chavim, but there's different. There it's more chamer because there the isur remains forever. So Tosfos answers, since the Torah says of the kasha for kalim, including kalim, which the only problem is wine. In those days, there was no yisrael of yair, just wine. Stam yainim should be the wine of a guy should be usher, unless they actually poured it for avodah zarah. Including a kalim, the only thing it was used for was wine, and so why are you kashering it? For the nazir. So we see even isurim, which are only temporary, also need yulin, because the Torah says all kalim from a guy have to be kasher, regardless. Interesting. Says he got further. How come they need nazir to teach you tam kika? Learn from Gilad Gechavim. Learn from kashering. Kashering also chiddush. Why is that chiddush? The rest we know that kol kula. We know it says in the pasuk like gerash v'sherachet tidnena. If you have a carcass, you give it to the get in your place. And we learn from there that when is treif called a treif? Only while it's called an avela, which is when it's still edible. But if it has a foul taste, it's no longer called a avela. So in l'chayda, what is the kasha for? The taste is already, is decayed and it's not very good. So he says, if the floor taste, it's permitted, and yet here we have to kasher. If the fact that you have to kasher it proves that the whole thing is a chiddush of kashering. So maybe tam kik over here is, but it's a lousy taste, which we generally don't accept as a taste, and yet there's a kasher. You can't compare it. That's what Rabbanan said. The new Rebbe Kiva, how does he learn the tam kik from kashering? Remember, we have a concept called that you only have to kasher kalim from the Torah the first 24 hours. Beyond that, and machlekes if it's just overnight for 24 hours. But beyond that, it's considered nice and tam livgam. It's a lousy taste. We still kasher, but it's only from the rabbis. And that's why we have so many leniencies. The first question a rabbi will ask you when he says, I use this pot, that pot. Was it within Ben Yoimai? Was it within this day or was it beyond that? So therefore, Rav Kiva says that the Torah only answered that first day, and therefore it's not a chiddush, because then the taste is not bad. It's not allowed to taste. Rabbanan say even if it's a day old, at least a drop. It already, okay, even though we ignore it, but the fact is that the taste is not so good, and it's still a chiddush. You can't compare anything to it. Okay, so we have according to Rabbi Kiva, he learns tam kika from kashering, heter tzavlis from nazir. The Rabbanan learn tam kika that tastes like is like the essence from here, from the kashering, from nazir. The Rabbanan, just like the Rabbanan learned tam kika from nazir, kula. You would think Rabbi Kiva he uses for a different din, but also we should use the kula, which is heter tzavlis. And yet, before we said it's only limited to nazir. From the Rabbanan, the way they approach nazir, nishma Rabbi Kiva, we should also use Rabbi Kiva. Lav Ami Rabbanan, the Rabbanan say, "Hi Mishas, what are they using in the pasuk? Mishas lintam kika, teacher that the taste is just like the ikir. Umekan atadon lecholi sunisha, but Torah they equate the rest of the Torah to nazir. Nu Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Kiva uses nazir to teach you heter lisa. Because moikim leilahai mishal heter lisa lema. Let's say mekan atadon lecholi sunisha. Let's say from here learn out kol Torah kula." Amalei, he answered the back. Nazir v'chatas beis ksuvin abayin kechad. Rabbi Kiva does not learn, because since there are two places where we learn the idea of hetem estar v'isur, and we have a general rule. If the Torah wanted you to learn from one place the halacha, then the Torah only said once. If the Torah says it twice, the Torah is saying these two are exceptions, and the rest not. Well, there is one opinion of Yehuda that says that no, you need that two psukim still malam, and it's only if you have three psukim. The Gemara doesn't bring that here. Because since by nazir the Torah teaches you heter v'savlisur, and by chatas it teaches you heter the whole base of echad ain't malamdim. Whenever you have two psukim telling you the same thing, you don't learn out. Nazir hadamran, nazir we just discussed, mishras, and chatas mayi. Where do you see the Torah of chatas? The Tanya we learned. It's about that anything that touches the flesh of the korban chatas becomes holy like the korban chatas. Yochol afilu shalei bola. I would have thought, as we'll see what it means. If let's say korban shlamim touches the korban chatas, then the korban shlamim takes on all the stringencies of the korban chatas. For example, the korban chatas is limited to 1 day and 1 night. Shlamim now is limited to 1 day, 1 night. If the chatas happens to be puzzled, the shlamim. If the chatas is nicer, the shlamim becomes nicer, and so on. I would have thought just by coming in contact, I feel shleibola, nothing was absorbed. Therefore, the pasuk says, "Biv sara in his flesh." Ad sheyivla b'psara, until it gets absorbed in his flesh. Yigdash, then it takes on, assumes the identity of the Karma Chattas. Leah's come out just like it. For example, if the Chattas is possible because of Noisa or Pigel, and the Shlamim is absorbed some of it, let's say a piece of fat can absorb the Shlamim becomes just like it. And let's say it's kosher, you can eat the shlamim, but only limited to the many dinim. Only the kohanim that are males can eat from it. Only within the base hamikdash you can eat from it. Only the time limit of a day and a night. It takes on all the stringencies of a karma chattas. So now it seems that even though the chattas gets attached to the shlamim, so it's like a case of heter mistaraf le'isa here. And it tells you that, yes, that it takes on all the chumras. So we have two psukim telling you heter mistaraf le'isa. So the Gemara, yeah, because we're talking about, we're assuming, talking about a half a kazayis of the chattas got stuck to a half a kazayis of the shlamim, and then it all combines together. So we see het mistaraf le'isa. Why not? Maybe it's tam kikir. Maybe it's talking about the taste, because the one need a pasuk for. We already learned from kashering that the taste of whatever the iser is lingers on. So if the shlamim absorb the taste of the chattas, then of course the shlamim takes on the din of the chattas. I don't need a brayso to tell me that, because we know already tam kikir. What we're talking about, there's no tam. We're talking about it's het mistaraf le'isa here. Yeah. Says the Gemara, the Rabban will say tzrichi. Rabban will say we need it. What do you mean? It's not tuksu and boink echad. Rabban will say if you're going to argue it's het mistaraf le'isa, it's still not be tuksu and boink echad. What do you mean? You would need both psukim, and therefore you should learn kol ha'Torah from there. Rabbanon if the Torah says gabe chatas, if you're right that Nazir is heter mistaraf le'isa and chatas is heter mistaraf le'isa, then you should learn kol ha'Torah kula. You have two psukim. No, because you would need both psukim. Why? Because I'm going to gabe chata. You know that Nazir le'asrei. You don't learn Nazir from the Nazir mekachim lefinin. Nazir from kachim. If the Torah would only told us by chatas, you would say you have to repeat it by Nazir, because you wouldn't learn Nazir from kachim. Kachim have a whole different set of rules. Okay, so say just by Nazir, I make kabel chayim. No, because I was saying Nazir le'afinin the chami disurei. Nazir is so strict that even just the chartzen, let's say the pips or the skin, the two opinions we had, is forbidden, which is not usual. So therefore, it's very, very chumber. So the Torah would have to say both. So if it's talking about heter mistaraf le'isa, then you should learn kol Torah from there. So it must be that that the Nazir is talking about tam kikir, and you learn kol Torah from there. And chatas might be heter mistaraf le'isa for kachim only. That's how some of the Shem learn. Rabbi Kiva says no. I don't need both psukim. What do you mean I don't need both psukim? Because it's right. You can't learn from kachim. What do I need both psukim for? I understand. You're right. If the Torah would only written this law by chatas, you're right. It would have to be repeated in Nazir. But the chulim kachim, we have a general rule that you cannot compare chulim to kachim. Okay, I grant you that. But let the Torah only tell us heter mistaraf le'isa by Nazir. I would learn chatas from there. Why? The kol yisudim shebetorah kagamim in Nazir. We learn all yisudim in the Torah from Nazir. We could learn from Nazir. Why can't you learn from Nazir? Could we learn out other dinim from Nazir as well? We're learning kachim, and we learn from Nazir. So since we learn other dinim from Nazir, so surely the din that heter le'isa we should learn from. Why is there a kachim? Must be to tell you that only in these two psukim we have heter mistaraf le'isa and nowhere else. The Gemara, so if you use it for tam kikir, you only have one pasuk for tam kikir, because chatas is talking about heter mistaraf le'isa. So all you have is Nazir for tam kikir. So Rabbanan say from here you learn not kol Torah kula. But according to Rabbi Kiva, if you learn heter mistaraf le'isa, you have two psukim, chatas and here, and then one of them is not necessary. The one about chatas is unnecessary unless I tell you limited to these two, and that's it, no more. But Rabbanan will tell you no. Chatas leheter mistaraf le'isa. Rabban will say no. We say that chatas is coming to heter mistaraf le'isa. The chulim mekachim like coming in. Umish is like tam kikir. The Chachamim spell it out. They learn the concept of heter mistaraf le'isa by kachim, but it's only limited to kachim. And Nazir is talking about tam kikir, and since it's only one pasuk tikir tam kikir, because even though we had it by kashering, but that's a chiddush. You can't learn anything from there. Or by basachol is a chiddush. is mekanadon the chol shon shvatayda. We learn on kol shon shvatayda. But Rabbi Kiva holds Tavayu lehetim is tavalis. Rabbi Kiva holds that both for heterolis. But Havlish Negdim Magechel Chalim Mechel in Milan. You have two psukim taking the same thing. You don't have. You see the style of Gemara of Nazir is different than other Gemaras. Gemara actually spells it out. You don't even need Rashi. The Gemara spells it out. You know exactly what the outcome is. Otherwise, the time you be looking at the pasuk, Mikol Asher Ye Asa Megefan Yayin. It says in the pasuk, everything that is produced emanates from Gefen Yayin. It says, what do you mean everything? What are you trying to tell me? Everything is coming. You say, Limud Ali Suri Nazir Shem Estarfiz that Isuri Nazir. I want that Isurim. You can take the pip, the skin, and then the flesh, and all that, and they combine with each other. Now, the Rabbi Kiva, even if you had not a full kazayis of Easter, half a kazayis of het and Easter, they combine. Easter, boy, I need a puzzle to tell you that if you have three different kinds of Easter by another, they're combined. If het is combining with an Easter, I ate bread with grapes, it's also so surely, this part of the grape with that part of the grape. Amalei, he said, no, there's a difference. There's a heter mitzvah of Easter is only if you ate it in one gulp. But Issa combined with Issa is Kedei Achilas is one after another. It's different rules. If you ate a half a kazayis, let's say, of grape and a half a kazayis of bread, it has to be in one bite. But when it comes to Issa one after another, as long as he ate it within Achilas pras. Rab Shimon says Rab Shimon. So you're learning Mikol Asher Yasa Geffen. Now we're going digressing for a minute. You're learning Mikol Asher Yasa Geffen that you combine different Yisurim. But Abshimon says I feel a mashu kosher hulamakas. Only carbon you kazayis. According to Abshimon, you don't have to combine anything because even if you ate only a little bit, a minuscule, you're liable because you ate a minuscule. So according to him, what does he do? Mikol Asher Yasa, everything that you combine, you don't have to combine anything. Shimon, the less they he holds that even a mashu, a koshu, mikol asher yasa, my daughter, but what does he use the kol asher yasa? We already had in the beginning with Sechta. Nobody needed for. What we learned in the beginning with Sechta. If you remember, we had an argument of Dalad between the Shimon and Chachamim. Even if you just highlighted one of the Isurim, I want to be a Nazir from wine, automatically become a Nazir for them all. But according to Rab Shimon, if you said I want to be a Nazir from wine, you're not a Nazir at all. Because it says Mikol Asher Yasa Megefen. I have to combine everything. Kol Asher Yas. You have to make a bit of Nazir until either you say I'm a Nazir Stam, or you have to include everything. And where you learn it from Mikol. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.